We're chatting with analyst Karen Hobert about rethinking digital business and IT strategy and leadership. The blog posts that we're walking through that you've published with the Analyst Syndicate, they emphasize a sort of a dichotomy between enterprise IT organizations and the way that they work or the way that they're positioned. The terminology that you use is enterprise IT as a responder or as a curator. Now, I have some slide information, some PowerPoint background that I'll bring up as we talk through this, but I'd like to have you explain what this model is, what it means, and why the different elements and the need to change is so important.
Ask away.
All right, so we have a multi-layer model. So if you could give us an idea as to, first off, what do we mean or what do you mean by technology responders versus digital curators? And then we'll walk from the top down throughout the entire model.
When I think of probably most organizations, when it comes to digital transformation, those random acts of transformation, it's really a response mode, right? It's really we have a problem, let's fix it, right? They're responding to technology needs, right? And this is the enterprise architect standpoint, and no offense to enterprise architects, but it's really the standpoint of we will design something with some technology, and then we will keep improving it and fixing it or doing what needs to be done to keep it all going. And so technology responders are reacting to the business. Digital curators are really involved in the business. They're looking at digital as part of what are the business outcomes that need to happen with this technology, and what technologies can we use to address that business need, right? How can we meet those business goals? And so when I think of, the left hand, right hand of responder versus curator, I like to think of a handful of sort of areas of how we think about things. So the first up is technology responders, where the way technology is handled, it's centralized, there's a single point of ownership, the delivery is usually sending out, okay, let me get all the whole feature sets that you need. Whereas curators align to the business and they say, what's the outcome and the goal, and what technologies do we have or might need to address that goal?
Mm-hmm. Our second layer then is the governance layer, and we've got a difference, if you will, or a dissonance of fragmented on the responder side and more pervasive, coordinated, and centralized on the curator side. What makes these things different, and how do they work differently?
Well, I think you'll start to see a pattern here between responders and curators. Responders are sort of wholly owned groups, and they tend not to be embedded into the organization. That's how you get a fragmented and distributed oversight, right? Well, this risk group is in charge of the protection, but this IT network group is in charge of accessibility, right? Okay. Something of that nature. And yet the business is nowhere to be seen. And when we talk about pervasive and coordinated governance, again, it's really around taking in the risk management aspects, it's taking in the business aspects, and actually governing things as business decisions, governing your technology as business decisions, right? Okay, we'll take that risk of that technology because it's going to gain us this value by doing it. And it's a worthwhile business risk.
Okay. The next layer is your focus layer. And what we're seeing on the screen is we've got managed focus. Looks like more of a, here we go, least common denominator focused on the responder side. The curator side, we're looking at technology more as a facilitation capability or tools that we can use in order to make the business happen. Is that right?
That's correct. Yeah. The manage is all about finding technology to command and control things.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas on the curator side, we're really looking at technology as how can our employees or customers use it and access the technology to support their needs.
All right. What do we mean by experience? This is one of the layers where I'm going to need a little bit of help understanding.
So one way to look at it is the experience of the business user, the experience of using the technology. So when we think of in a technology responder world, everything's a destination, right? I'm going to go here to do this work. I'm going to go over here to find my files and documents. I'm going to use these capabilities for one thing, and then when I switch modes and go to another thing, I've got to go somewhere else. And on a curator side, really what we're saying is, you know, no matter how I get work done, whether I'm working at home, whether I'm at an office, whether I'm on a cell phone or a desktop computer, it doesn't matter from a user standpoint, I should be able to seamlessly be able to access the things that I need and use the technology as it will come to a little more to me that fits my needs. Really, it's honestly, am I working for the tech or is the tech working for me?
If you need to ask, then you're not going to like the answer.
Right. Exactly.
And this goes back, of course, to the unification and of purpose and the alignment of leadership, you know, top and bottom, side to side, so that everybody, again, is thinking along the same lines, perceiving, and therefore being able to implement and utilize the digital transformation capabilities in this seamless manner throughout. It's not just this layer, it's the entire model. So when it comes to implementation, we've got some differences here as well. The response side versus the curation side. Can you give us some ideas on what this layer does and what it's for?
Well, some of this is, you know, an after effect of the cloud and being able to put things in a place where they're more available to more sort of endpoints. But, you know, think about it. It used to be enterprise architects are in charge of developing and designing oftentimes large and complex systems, IT systems. You have to own it all, right? There's an ownership model. You end up finding vendor bias because it's well, if I've already got this vendor, then I should be getting more of their things because it'll work better. But what's happened is you've now oftentimes painted yourself in a corner. You're saying, oh gosh, you know, how do I now get this stuff available to our new office in, you know, in Singapore, right? Now we've got a problem because it's large, complex, and hard to move through. And the curator is really about speed to value. The curator is, how can we implement things that are responsive to whatever changes in the business, and it makes it easier for us to use this technology, whatever happens. Oftentimes there's a certain amount of outsourcing. SaaS, as you know, software as a service, has been a really good example of speed to value for many companies. And think of what just happened, right? Think of how many companies were able to start having their employees work from home simply because they could outsource things like Zoom, or they could outsource collaboration capabilities. And it is never an either or. It's never, you must have this and you can't have that. It's always, okay, we know we already have these capabilities, but is this, again, going back to our principles, can these capabilities align to our business goals? And if we have some overlap of technology, then that might be important and necessary, but let's not rule it out just because we think we have something that might meet the needs.
Okay. We're going to look at the innovation layer. Again, revolutionary versus evolutionary. as someone who's worked in a bunch of data centers in a lot of different kinds of companies and environments, I personally prefer evolutionary. It tends to be less disruptive. But is that just my point of view, or is that what you run into as well?
I definitely run into that because I think remember, we're talking about mindset. Oftentimes when people hear the word innovation, they think, okay, we are going to change the world. We are going to disrupt something. It's going to be a big bang and the world is going to change.
Mm-hmm.
But as you've pointed out, evolutionary mindset actually provides the flexibility and the incremental steps and stages that allow you to figure out, when somebody does something revolutionary, if it doesn't work out, it's a huge failure. But when you're experimenting, you can fail small and fail often, and it's not going to disrupt and be as noticeable as, what we learned in this process? We learned that this isn't going to work. So how can we innovate differently? How can we do a better job the next time?
Okay. And again, it's all about, curation, meaning guidance and influence, rather than simply take this and make it happen.
Exactly.
Okay. So at the industry layer, what are we looking at here?
So what we're really looking at is how the industry, the technology industry, is responding to the fact that, there's more push towards digital curators, the digital enterprise. And, when we think about it, the mindset on the responder side is we just look at systems, right? Let's deploy systems. They're often self-contained products. They're license-based. They have cycles. This is really becoming a very old-fashioned way of obtaining technology at this point. And moving towards the concept of capabilities of platforms where things are componentized, they're part of something broader. This kind of goes back to the experience concept of things get integrated and interfaced, right? We have, if it's application platform, we have available APIs so we can integrate with other systems that we might have available. Mm-hmm. Things become subscription based. So, there's some flexibility and agility or at least elasticity to grow and shrink as needed. And the release cycles are much more rapid. As you don't need to get that whole piece of software fixed. You can get just that one component or one function fixed or changed or upgraded. Okay. So this last piece about the industry is really where the industry is going and how companies and enterprises are buying technology and leveraging technology.
And so it's really more about, let's say, concurrent changes, right? So we have, the digital rethinking in terms of, the enterprise, the organization structure, culture, the barriers in between functions and capabilities that have always been there. And as those start to crumble, they're crumbling not just because we want to think differently or we want to do business differently, but because the industry is enabling us to do that. The technology, the services, everything that goes into that, and the new ways of doing things and of delivering and enabling capabilities, this is all coming together.
Yes, exactly.
Karen, thank you very much. This is a terrific model. Up next, we're going to be talking with Karen about another very interesting model that she has blogged about, looking at 3 dimensions of digital strategy.